Welcome back. We would be discussing the expansion of British power in India in this video. In the previous video, we saw that how the voyages of discovery led to the establishment of various trading centers in India. And we also saw that how there was a struggle for trade supremacy in India in between the Portuguese, the Dutch, the French and the British. Now, from here we will see how the East India Company establishes itself in the 16th century, and from becoming a mere trader, the East India Company becomes the ruler and conquests India. So, in this video we would be covering the Carnatic Wars, the conquest for Bengal, the Battle of Boxer, the policy of subsidiary alliance and the policy of the doctrine of lapse. First, let us discuss about the Carnatic Wars. In the 18th century, there were a series of military conflicts that occurred between the French and the British for control over the coastal strip of Tamil Nadu. This came to be known as the Carnatic Wars. If you can see this map is basically showing us the region of Carnatic. Carnatic was the coastal strip which is present in the present day of Tamil Nadu. There were 3 wars which were being fought, and these 3 wars came to be known as the Carnatic Wars. The first Carnatic War was basically fought between 1744 and 1763. This Carnatic War was fought when the French was led by Governor Dupleix, who captured Madras, which was a British possession. However, Madras was restored to the British as a part of the peace settlement in Europe following the Australian Wars of Succession. The Second Carnatic War was fought in between the years 1749 and 1754. Over here, this war was fought basically due to the issue of the successor to the throne of Hyderabad and Carnatic, with the British and the French supporting the opposing candidates. This time, the French was defeated and Dupleix was recalled back to France. And finally, the Second Carnatic War ended with the Treaty of Pondicherry being signed in the year 1754. Next, the Third Carnatic War was fought in between 1757 to 1763. The 7 Years' War in Europe rekindled the Anglo-French hostility in India. The French were defeated at the Battle of Vandewash in 1760, and finally, after the end of the war in Europe, the British returned Pondicherry to the French, and however, the French power in India was almost neglected from here. So, what does the Carnatic Wars tell us? The Carnatic Wars were basically a series of wars which was fought for gaining the control over the southern tip of India. Next, let us talk about the conquest of Bengal. By the middle of the 17th century, the English East India Company had set up a few factories in Bengal. In 1698, the British had acquired 3 villages which were later developed into the city of Kolkata. Finally, the British had also constructed the Fort William to safeguard their own interest. When they expanded their fortifications and misused their trading rights, the Nawab of Bengal, Siraj-ud-Dowlah, had to expel them from Calcutta. That was the time when they fought the very famous battle which came to be known as the Battle of Plassey. The main reason, as you can see in this picture, behind the Battle of Plassey was when Siraj-ud-Dowlah went to capture the fort which was Fort William. This fort was basically a British possession, and by declaring a war, the famous Battle of Plassey was being fought. In 1757, Robert Clive led the company's army against Siraj-ud-Dowlah at Plassey. Mir Jafar never fought this battle, and the Battle of Plassey became very famous because it was the first major victory the company had won in India. The main reasons that we can see for the defeat of Siraj-ud-Dowlah were: first, he was betrayed by his own officers such as Mir Jafar. Second, the British had very superior naval power which could not be disowned. Third, Siraj-ud-Dowlah was inexperienced and young. Fourth, Siraj-ud-Dowlah did not make any attempt to gain any support from the French. The next battle which was fought was the Battle of Buxar. Mir Kazim, the son-in-law of Mir Jafar, was made the new Nawab by the East India Company as the later failed to meet the company's demand. The new Nawab, however, became unpopular with the British because of the measures that he had undertaken. Mir Kazim forged an alliance with the Mughal Emperor, which was Shah Alam II, and the Nawab of Awadh. Their combined forces fought with the British forces at Buxar in October 1764. However, these combined forces were soon defeated by the British, and finally with this victory the company becomes the real masters of Bengal. The main consequences of the Battle of Buxar were: first, the Treaty of Allahabad was signed between the British, Shah Alam II and the Nawab of Awadh in 1765. Second, the Mughal Emperor granted Diwani, that is the right to collect revenue from Bihar, Bengal and Orissa, to the English East India Company. In return, the Mughal Emperor was only given an annual tribute of Rs 26 lakhs, besides the districts of Kora and Allahabad. The emperor had to reside in the fort of Allahabad but under the protection of the British. The third main consequence of the Battle of Buxar was that the Nawab of Awadh had to pay an immediate amount of Rs 50 lakhs. His kingdom was given back to him, but on a promise that he would help the Britishers in case his kingdom was again attacked by any other rulers. Lastly, Robert Clive introduced the dual government in Bengal in 1765, which lasted up to 1772. Under this system, Mir Jafar was placed back on the throne and he was handed over the powers of military and criminal jurisdiction, while the company exercised control over the revenue collection. Through this method, the company had all the powers but no responsibilities were given to the Nawab, and he just acted as a mere puppet. The next doctrine that we are going to talk about is the doctrine of subsidiary alliance. This was a very important doctrine because with the help of this doctrine, the British also annexed few states. This doctrine was introduced by Lord Weasley, who was the Governor General of India from 1798 to 1805. As per this policy, a ruler had to disband his own army and maintain the British troops permanently at his cost. But the main ruler would be the Britishers. The rulers also had to accept the British resident in his court. The ruler had to expel all the foreigners except the British from his territories. The ruler also had to consult the British before negotiating with any other Indian states. And lastly, the ruler had to abide by the decision of the British in case of any kind of disagreement. Eventually, we see that this policy of subsidiary alliance allowed the British to supervise a king's relations with the other kingdoms. And in return of this policy, the British promised that the ruler would be protected from any external invasions, and as a result of this alliance, the rulers lost his independence, whereas the British slowly and steadily secured the right to interfere in the various internal affairs of the kingdom. The last and the most important doctrine that was introduced by the British was the doctrine of lapse. The final wave of annexation occurred under Lord Dalhousie, who was the Governor General from 1848 to 1856. The chief instrument of Dalhousie's policy was the annexation of the doctrine of lapse. According to this doctrine, if a ruler of a protected or a dependent state died without a natural heir, his state would be automatically lapsed, or his state would automatically get passed on to the British Company. The first victims of this doctrine was Satara, followed by Sambalpur, Udaipur, Nagpur and Jhansi. As you can see that these are the various kingdoms through which the Britishers annexed, and the policy used was the doctrine of lapse. The kingdoms were Satara in 1848, Sambalpur in 1850, Udaipur in 1852, Nagpur in 1853 and finally Jhansi in 1854. Over here, let us also not forget the contribution made by Rani Jhansi when she wanted to protect her own kingdom. The very famous Rani Lakshmi Bai, and we also talk about her courageous and bravest act that she had done by saying a very famous line which says, "Khoob ladi mardani wo to Jhansi wali Rani thi." So with this, we basically come to an end of our video for part 2. In the next video, we would be seeing how the annexation of other states like Mysore, Maratha Kingdom and the conflicts with the Sikhs were done so that the British could slowly and steadily gain sole control and sole supremacy over the entire Indian subcontinent. Thank you and have a nice day.